Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Let's get paid, shall we?
Yes.
Let's get some money.
Yes.
Because you gotta, well, not all of you have to pay rent. Some of you have rent you need to pay.
And, maybe soon we'll become homeless because we can't afford to pay rent. You never know.
Right. So, of course, this is the thing. We fade in on exterior shot, a raucous post-medieval tavern. Not too post-medieval, but they got glass windows, but they're not fancy glass windows. You can barely see through them. So I imagine that the flea in Flintlock is a squat building, pretty large. It's got like a big main hall inside. So tavern, like a stone tavern with probably an additional second level built onto it later. So it clearly doesn't quite match. So it's the main floor is a tavern and feasting hall. It's got a bar and tables and a stage and all of that stuff. And then a back area. And underneath it, there's probably a cellar or whatever. There is also a repurposed version down in the basement. Now, I don't think any of you have necessarily seen it, but there is essentially a makeshift prison underneath the flea in Flintlock because this is where they store people until the Revolutionary Council or whatever comes to get them for sentencing. So that's in the basement. There's the main floor. And then above it, there is a big main room and then a bunch of smaller rooms around the outside. So there's like a room with a bunch of 2 or maybe 3 in some cases high bunk beds that could fit, like 50 people probably. And then private rooms around the outside. And technically, I imagine that there used to be a law where unmarried people couldn't cohabitate. Like you couldn't rent a room together, like regardless of whatever else. They were like, you have to show that you're married. This was the old way. That's gone now. We have this new thing. But a lot of innkeepers stick to the old way because it means that people rent more than one room. But since you are friends with the proprietors, they're like, nah, it's fine. That's an weird old law. We don't do that anymore. You two go on ahead. It's fine.
Is this the anime moment where it's like, there was only one bed?
No, you know that you sleep on the floor, Lucia. You know that's what happens. You know where you live.
I know.
So we see this from the outside. It has that big painted sign hanging above the door of the little flea with the guns and the top hat. And there are several horses of varying quality hitched up out front. There are big windows, one of which used to have glass in it, but it's been broken so many times that they stopped putting new glass in and just put up wood boards because that's the window closest to the stage. And a great number of lecturers and lute players and singers have been thrown through that window more than once. The place itself is it's essentially like a biker bar where if you belong here, you do. And if you don't know that you belong here, you don't. Right. So the group of you can walk in with the confidence that you belong to a club and a club that you are paying fees monthly for to be a part of. But you can walk in confident that you'll be among peers. And so when you come in, there's probably a couple of other groups, either of similar quality and numbers to your own, little groups of 4 or 5 people clustered at tables talking. Some, it's clear, have the energy of hunters about to go out, right? Where they, you can see their packs down on the floor. They've got weapons ready. Maybe somebody's tightening a bowstring or checking a pistol, and they have the paperwork on the table and they're all ready. But there's also groups that come back and, they've got bandages on their heads, or maybe one's missing a limb they had when they left. But they all have food on their plate and drink in their mugs because they just got paid. So when you come in, I think that that upstairs is where the business gets done. There is a single room that is Archie's room, where it's his office. It's the biggest room here. It's like essentially like the suite, and it's his where he lives and does his work. He is not currently downstairs. You don't see him anywhere. And I think you get from the table of the older hunters, the one that came back, you get a couple of nods, maybe a little salute. Who is the person that they make eye contact with? Is it Lucia? I don't think it's Dawn or Mr. Bolvadier, but it's Vander or Lucia. And that's the person where the other groups see you and they'll just be like, they'll talk to you as a it's either metonymy or the other one, but you represent the group.
I feel like what happens is like we're both around the same height, but Lucia is significantly larger as a person. So maybe it's like they see the shape of Lucia, but the person they greet is Vander.
How clear is it that you are Vander's goon?
I mean, I feel like she's used to existing in a like hierarchical business. So when she fell into this business, she kind of established a hierarchy for herself. So she's fairly deferential, yes.
Right, so everybody sees that and they just treat you like you're Vander's bodyguard or whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just she's very young and she's comfortable with this being the way things are for now.
So I think, Lucia, you come in. Actually, you'd be last if you've got the rope. So like Vander, Mr. Belvedere, and Dawn, you come in. Vander, you get a couple of nods. And Lucia, when you come in trailing the rope behind you, it triggers another flea and flintlock tradition where you walk in and as soon as they see a rope, a couple of people at the table start getting rowdy. They're like, oh shit. And some of the other ones like get up and we see people, somebody grabs a half of like a baked potato. Somebody else gets like a handful of
I push
chicken
him
bones
forward into this, right?
And as you push him in, I think we see in the corner there's an old woman who nobody really knows her deal, but she's just like around. She's kind of like the grandma of the establishment. We see her and she's leaning on her broom and she just rolls her eyes like, oh boy, I'm gonna need to get the mop. And she goes into the back. And as soon as you come in, the other table starts like shouting at this noble and like just the worst, like meanest shit, like about what they're gonna do to their kids or like, you know, it's just like a lot of awful verbal abuse. And they just start throwing shit at him. You know, like soft things, at least at first. So there's a lot of booing and shouting and people just like whipping like rotten food or like things they haven't finished at them, bits of trash. And immediately Beetlebro just drops to his knees and tries to get his hands over his head. They're all laughing and we pan to Lucia who has the rope. What are you going to do?
I feel like I kind of want him to present a better target for everybody. So I'll jerk him up front with the rope so I don't like get in the way and get like food on me. But just because he's trying to cover his body and his face so he doesn't get hit. And I'm like, nah, mister. Like, you've avoided this for long enough.
Okay, yeah, you drag him to his feet.
Yeah.
Okay. I think he tries to like hide behind you or something. Like he stumbles towards you, like because you pull on him and he like stumbles towards you and he's just like, oh god, and like tries to use you as cover. He's not really thinking right now. He's just being pummeled by trash. So
I turn him around forcefully.
Okay.
He needs to face this. This is his like comeuppance.
Is that what everybody else thinks? Do you watch this happening to him?
I mean, I'm going around looking for Archie.
Archie's upstairs, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think probably like the lady with the broom, when she sees you, she nods like quietly at the other side of the scene when this is all going on. She says to you, she's like, the master's upstairs.
Oh, very good. Yeah, we'll let them have their fun, but strictly business for me.
And she nods and she looks at your empty hands and she says, yeah, I appreciate it. It's all good fun for them. Someone's got to clean up the mess.
Well, I'm grateful we all are that you're like a mother to so many of these rowdy young ones. And
yeah, and she nods and she pats you on the shoulder and her eyes are all cataracted and she's super old and like she probably can't even really see you. She looks at you and she says, that's why I always liked you, Vander, dear.
Yeah, and Vander just is like, just don't squirm away from the old lady. Don't act grossed out.
She gives you a little pinch on the cheek.
Yeah, and this lady probably is one of those people who always thinks Vander's a dude also. And so she's just like, yeah, cool, grandma.
Yeah,
like whatever.
Like upstairs.
And so, yeah, she kind of like excuses herself and brushes past and goes to track down.
Yeah, so remind me to give you a minute with Archie if you want one before everybody else shows up. But meanwhile, downstairs, Mr. Belvedere and Dawn, you watch till the crowd runs out of things to throw, or?
I got
is-
a.
Okay, you want me to go? Okay. I was just wondering, is the structure tall enough to fit me in this bar tavern? So
It's
I'm like hunched.
Barely. Even Lucia has to duck to get under any doorway.
So I'm like,
but you're hunched over a fair bit. They didn't build this. This place probably was built before humans and ogres had first contact, right? So
yeah. So I was just walking down, and I think she sees she sees Lucia trying to like pull the Lord up, and she'll walk over to Lucy and go, "Here, let me just take this rope." And she'll pull it up and make him pull and stand him up taller. Is this what you're trying to do?
Right, so you yank it up above him like the strings on a marionette, and so his arms go up, and he can't even use his elbows to cover his face now. And I think he takes like an empty mug right to the face.
Nice.
Like we hear a crack, it hits him like right on the side of the face, and he shouts, and there's blood, and he like staggers back. And I think
don't damage the goods now, everybody.
Yeah, and they all kind of slow down a little. Once there's blood, the people who are just in it for fun are kind of like, okay, all right, and they go back to sit down, and and everybody sort of like chills a little, and he's just like sobbing.
I look up at Dawn, and I'm like, sometimes I forget how tall you are.
Yeah, when I'm in the confines of your guys' structures, I tend to stand out a little bit more, and I kind of like it was kind of the rope back down to you.
Oh, did Vander already go upstairs?
Oh, and we look around.
I feel like
to Mr. Belvedere at the bar holding a beer, just drinking and watching it all. Like,
excellent. So, I mean, Mr. Belvedere, nobody drinks for free. You're gonna pay for that beer?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Once I get paid.
Oh, I see how it is.
You know I'm good for it.
But the thing is, this is totally like a bar where that would be a thing. So like there is a board behind the bar because there's not a lot of different variety of alcohol, right? So there's a big chalkboard with names on it and ticks next to each name. And so, Mr. Belvedere, you lean over and you just get yourself a beer, right? You can just pour yourself a beer and then you just make a note. Does Mr. Belvedere have lots of tallies? No tallies? Like what is?
I think it's every time he's done drinking, it's wiped clear at the end of every night.
Right. So like a modern like bar tab rather than like an old timey like I'll see you next time, Lucy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but Mr. Belvedere's weird like that as opposed to everyone's, but his spot is just always there. So he doesn't even have to look when he goes.
Yeah. So you just add a tick and hang out with your beer. Okay.
They have prices for ale, beer, brandy, cider, mead, mulled wine.
I believe it was
table
a beer.
wine and whiskey.
Oh,
but
it is
not for corpses.
not for corpses.
What
Not
gives?
for corpses.
What gives?
Damn, Daniel. Damn. Okay. So how much is a beer?
A beer by the cup.
Yeah.
It has by the stein. It's 7 brass
You
pennies.
can't drink it anything else. Okay, make a note, Mr. Belvedere. You owe the establishment 7 brass pennies.
Oh, Mr. Belvedere never forgets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so so everybody kind of runs out of their like angry fury. The little event is done. The room is now silent except for the quiet conversations at the table about planning, that sort of micro conspiratorial thing that happens around planning out events, and then the slow, pained, wet sobs of a man at the end of his rope, literally. Meanwhile, though, Vander, you go upstairs, and imagine the upstairs as kind of, I'm envisioning it as kind of like donut shaped almost, in the sense that it has the sort of central room and then stairs that come up here. And if this is the outside of the building, then there would be like private rooms maybe along the back wall like this.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. And then the one in the middle is Archie's. And then you and Lucia have like one of the ones on the side.
Oh, do we get a corner room? That's fancy.
There you go. So, yeah. So I think you go upstairs. There's somebody asleep at the top of the stairs that you have to step over. And he mumbles an apology to you. He's like, sorry, I lost my keys.
Yeah, and I think Vander recognizes him.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, it's fine. Gerald, I think this guy's name is Gerald. Yeah, she's like, oh, don't worry.
Gerald of Riviera.
sleep tight, and just like gives him a little pat, with the back of her hand.
He's asleep in a
on his
cardboard.
torso.
Yeah, and he looks up and he's like, good hunting, Vander. And then goes back to sleep against the wall.
And she'll just like
mumbling something about his lost daughter.
Go straight back to
to
Archie's room and let herself in.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you head around I should have mentioned that you saw his horse Vermin outside. So you head down the hallway and Archie's got his door open. And somebody's walking out, another hunter. She's coming out and she has like a terrible, terrible injury on her face. So her hair is all shaved off in a big long like line. And there's a big scar that runs from the back of her head all the way like down under her nose. Her nose is covered in bandages. One of her eyes is covered in bandages, and she's got this big wrapped like mask. But she's smiling. Ooh, is she smiling? She's missing all of her teeth on one side. She's got a big smile on her face as she comes out, and she's holding a big sack of money. And she sees you, and she smiles and waves with her other hand, and nods and like looks at the money like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, maybe you can get a new face with that. And then like
yeah, she is just like wind out of her sails. She just stops like it's the one thing I can't buy.
Vander is like giving her a pat on the shoulder as she's passing by, just like, maybe next time, like.
Yeah, I'm imagining that she's so happy because like none of the other members of her party survive, so she gets the full payout instead of just the 5 that she usually gets, and she's so happy. And then Vander's just like, shut down.
Yes, yeah. So I think Dawn and Lucia both take corruption for abusing this guy above and beyond the call of duty. Vander, that burn was harsh enough that I think you deserve one.
Okay.
So how much should we take for shoving this guy in the line of food fire?
All 3 of you have one. Yeah, all 3 of you take a corruption. Yeah.
Right, it's not the rinks, it's the
later when you finally come face to face with the masked villain of the campaign, she'll reveal that it's the scarred lady, and she'll be like, finally my revenge. Her and Gerald. So she walks past you, soaking her tears through her bandages as she flees off to the girls' bathroom to cry. And the door is just sitting out there, and you hear from the other room, you hear next.
Yeah, and I don't call Archie, right? I use his.
So let's talk about him. So his full name, which very few people know, is Archibald Henry. He had a military rank in the old way, but he was also a member of the old military that is now no longer around. Archie, to his friends, his official title in the new government is the Keeper of the Hounds. But if you have like a personal thing you call him, you're welcome to.
No, I just remember that we established that Mr. Belvedere is the only one who has that connection enough to call him Archie.
No, I thought that was with Lord Beetleborough, that Mr. Belvedere's the only one that would know he was Tweed, whatever.
Yeah, but with Archie, it's also, we established that Mr. Belvedere knows him in advance. So I think Mr. Belvedere might call him Master Henry or Mr. Henry or something like that. Something like respectful.
Oh, I see. And
right.
Then...
You could call him, it depends on how formal you want to be, right? Keeper. His title is Keeper of the Hound, so you could call him Keeper. That's, I think, what most of the folks call him. But if you get upgraded, if you have a beer with him, he'll let you call him Archie.
Okay.
But yes, Keeper or Keeper of the Hounds or Lord Henry. But that's like, he would probably wrinkle his brow at that because we don't use those titles. Yeah.
So Vander will walk in and just say, well, I'm afraid that's us, Keeper. Freshly returned.
So Archibald Henry is a man who unashamedly wears a kilt every goddamn day of his life. It is his favorite piece of clothing, so he's definitely wearing that. Man. You can't see it because he's got a big desk in front. But he's got a...
Can't see what, Adam? Can't see what?
His kilt.
Both.
You can't see his kilt or his knees. So there's a desk in front of it. He's got this big oak desk. There are marks on the door frame where they had to break the frame to get the desk into the room, and he's never bothered fixing them. So there's these 2 gouges on the door frame. He's got his big desk. There is a stuffed what kind of animal would he have in here? What do you think?
Is
What's
it a
like
taxidermy dog?
A ferret.
It would be like
It's a ferret in a top
Ferret?
hat.
no, it would be something for him to like display that he's like,
Ah.
I killed this myself. I remember the summer of 642.
A bear.
Like I was thinking bear, but it might be something else. I just wanted to see if anybody had a
Mountain
A
thought.
lion.
cougar. A
stag.
cougar. Of
A
some
cougar
kind?
mountain. Yes.
Moose, like a massive moose.
Just
I feel like you don't generally
Those are dangerous.
taxidermy the
Those are very
whole
dangerous.
moose.
just see
No,
the
it would just be
entire
the
He
moose.
did
head.
it all.
Like
He did it.
Okay,
all.
I like the idea of a moose head.
Yeah.
But the moose head has been, so it's up on one wall and it has been adorned by various people that give Archie gifts, right? Like things they've stolen from nobles. So the moose now has a monocle,
Oh my God, yes.
several gold teeth,
Amazing.
probably like
I
a
love
fancy hat in between its big moose antlers, and then several things hanging off of it, including
watches.
a pair of lacy underpants, which Archie has never told anyone the story of, but they're hanging lavender off of the edge of the.
That's what I used to wear under my kilt.
You're right. Like no one knows. There's all
For a
these
little
stories
fun.
about it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Where he's like, I think it's time for me to tell you the story of my lavender underpants. That's why he wears a kilt. But anyway, he's a man who likes to carry around his own mythology.
Mhm.
And so you walk in, there's the moose, there's the desk. He has a safe. There's a big metal safe. And he has written on the side of the safe in paint, in white letters, don't even think about it. It's just written on the side of the safe. And and when you walk in, you see him. Now, Archie is a man who's very proud of his enormous gray sideburns. Big, thick sideburns coming out of his face. Really not much of a jawline to speak of. He is clinging desperately to the idea that he's not going bald. And instead of doing like trying to cover for it by wearing hats or like doing a comb over, he just basically gives people a look that dares them to mention it. Right? His hairline is slowly receding to the back of his head. He used to have like probably bright orange hair, but now it's like gray and kind of brassy, and places where it still has color just look kind of dirty. And he has a military jacket that belongs to the new like Revolutionary Guard or whatever as they're forming, but he just wears it because it's a familiar cut, right? He just feels comfortable in it. He's not decorated or anything that he's ever shown. And when you come in, I think do you have, and I'll let you answer this, Vander, do you have like a personal relationship with him? When you walk in, does he see Vander, or does he see like, oh, another of my hounds returned to get paid?
I think anyone that knows Vander for any length of time, like she has a very large personality. So
He'd remember you.
yeah, she stands out.
Okay. Yeah. So you come into the frame and he smiles and he says, Vander, my girl, what have you got for me today?
Lord Fleabottom or something. I didn't keep track. And she like Riker sits in the chair in front of his desk.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Okay.
Ah.
So you turn around and you sit down.
Yeah.
And he says, Ray, let me get your paperwork. And he reaches into his shirt and he takes out a key ring on a chain. Right? He takes it over his head and he unlocks one of his drawers with it. And he opens the drawer and he takes out some papers and he starts flipping through them. And we see on these papers, and they're big, thick, like medieval parchment type papers. So he's flipping through it and he's like, here we go. And he takes it out and he puts it down. And on it, we see the wax seal of the Keeper of the Hounds. We see the wax seal of the Illuminated Masters. We see the triangle with the eye. And then there's a bunch of text. And at the bottom, there are 4 lines. What does everybody's signature look like? Is it just 4 awkward X's or?
Oh, yeah, mine's totally an X.
Okay, so we see a big jagged X for Lucia.
Vander has at least learned to like sign her name. I don't know if she is. I don't know. You need education to be lettered. In this
there is
thing,
a
right?
there is a skill that says educated, but I don't know if that's the only way you can get like literacy. Educated has
My assumption is that it's back. It's based on
it
background.
represents both literacy and schooling.
Okay,
Mhm.
there you go.
But it extends far beyond merely being able to read and write.
Does anybody have ranks in educated or education?
No.
or whatever?
I do.
No.
I
Okay.
have one education.
So Don, you can actually read and write.
Yes.
Mr. Belvedere has an aristocrat upbringing, which therefore allowed him to learn how to read and write.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Therefore, his signature is also massive.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
full John Hancock, like.
And it's still Mr. and Mister is how it's spelled. Yeah, very good.
And
Beautiful.
Dawn's is just very small. And
Now, Don, do you
measured.
write? Well, so this is the question, Don. Do you write your name in the human tongue, or do you write it in
Yes.
ogre?
I write it in human because it's humans who are reading this, so they must see my name. So
Okay.
I'm doing it for them.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, and I think Vander's name is written there, but she's not very good at it.
Yeah, it's
But she
an
very stubbornly
unpracticed.
insisted on
an
trying to
unpracticed
learn to
hand.
do it.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, like a little further than like a Toys R Us thing where you do your A backwards, but like not too far from that.
Yeah, she learned it by rote. Someone
Yeah.
else signed her name for her, and then she practiced
Right,
it.
you could be writing Jackass over and over.
Yeah.
You'd never know, but
Never
somebody
know.
you trust told you this is what your name looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is I can take education as a thing later, so I might eventually become educated, but
Okay. So Archie takes out the paperwork and he puts it down and he says, so is it and he has a honestly a concerned tone when he says, so is it just you coming back then?
Well, of course not. We're all here. I'm just the first, and they take their time. They're not very pragmatic people.
And he puts his hand on his chest and he's like, oh, thank goodness. I was worried there for a minute.
It's also work to hire new people, isn't it?
And you know it's not that. I just I love all my hounds evenly. I do hate to lose one, even the nasty ones.
Yeah, and Vander just kind of shrugs, she doesn't really believe that,
Yeah, and he changes the subject. He says, so I've noticed that HQ has been sending less and less. I think that thing we talked about is beginning to happen. And you remember a conversation you and Archie had once briefly where he was maybe a bit drunk, maybe feeling a little wistful, and he offhand mentioned to you someday every river dries up, right? Where the way he put it was right now we're sucking on the fat teat of revolution, but that milk's gonna dry up right quick, I tell you. And he was being a little nihilistic of we're gonna be out on our ass soon once all these nobles are caught. And so he says to you, he's like, I've got a few more, but he shrugs. I think we might all want to start looking for alternate employment.
What does that look like for you? Do they have some other desk you're going to sit behind?
He squints. I know. This is my desk. Where goeth I, so too goes she.
And Vander's just there nodding I didn't mean it literally, but cool.
Yeah, I mean, he's just what the hell? No, did you see how much effort it took to get this desk in here? He says, well, maybe in another world I'd have all the things the old army promised me. Have a family, a couple of wee boys and girls maybe to run around on a farm that I could buy for my pension. But of course we never got that, did we? So I suppose I'll just have to do as well as I can. Just kind of gestures he glances at the safe, though he doesn't realize that he's doing it.
Yeah. And so Vander just gives him a moment to reflect and then says, well, it hasn't run dry yet.
He shakes his head. No,
You
that
haven't
it has
forgotten old Vander, have you?
That it has not. I might have something for you. Something special.
Please have it be a good one who talks less.
He puts his hands up. Listen, I haven't met each and every one of them personally. If you get a talker, that's on you. And just bash a few teeth out. You don't need teeth to face justice.
At the bash a few teeth out, there's probably the sound of very heavy steps on the stairs.
Yeah, like everyone's
Yeah.
catching up.
And so Archie looks at you, Vander, and he says, and that would be those huge women you travel with. And you just hear like thump, 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 thump.
I mean, you can be light-footed, and occasionally when fighting, Lucia is light-footed, but lazy.
Mm-hmm.
This place probably isn't very well built. So
Oh God, no. Like you can definitely hear somebody in the room next door, like loudly emptying the contents of their nostrils into a metal bowl. Like you just hear this like, this like honking noise, and somebody trying to like hack up a stubborn ball of phlegm. And you can just hear it through the wall, and we all just pretend like it's not happening.
I mean, ugh. Anyway, at the doorway, ducking a little bit with a noble on him.
Behind.
Yeah. So everybody, he's like, Ray, come on, everybody, come in. There's room enough for everyone.
It's like duck into the room
through the doorway.
I like to stand next to the moose.
Okay, yeah. Right. Good. So you all sort of come into the room. He looks up at you, Dawn. Archie looks up, and I think he stands when you come in. So you all come into the room, and he stands up and he looks up at you, and he looks at you, Dawn, and he says, "Oh, sorry." Sees you like kind of.
Yeah.
And he says, I bet if we met outside in the street, you'd be awfully tall.
If we ever did, but I've never seen you anywhere besides behind that desk. Do you ever leave this room?
No, I'm a man of habit and simple pleasure. A glass of whiskey, a big desk, my moose, a nice place to sit.
I pat the moose on the nose.
Because I don't need much else. I'm not much for walking about.
Oh, I don't know, Master Henry. There's always something you need.
And he looks and he says, "Oh, you managed to survive another one, did you? Congratulations, old man."
Why, always so surprised, Master Henry. For all I know, I'm not much older than you, my good sir.
And it's probably true.
Yeah.
And you look at it, kind of look at each other for a minute, and he says loud enough that you can hear it on purpose, like a little stage whisper. He says to Vander, he's like, if you tire of this one, I hear the Smile family's looking for recruits. So you could just pass them off to them.
Oh, well, that's never his problem.
Yeah, and the two, Vander and Archie, share a bit of a chuckle at Mr. Belvedere's sort of fake expense. And he turns to you, Lucia, and he's like, "Right now, lass, bring the accused forward."
I push the accused forward.
Yeah, and so seeing a new face, he stumbles and he like falls right. He can't put his hands up to protect him, so he stumbles a little bit and he sort of falls a bit on the desk, and he starts blubbering, and he says, "Oh, thank God, finally, a man of some sense. Please, you have to free me from these maniacs. They came to my house. They broke down my front door. They killed my men. They killed at least 2 peasants of mine. And I have money. I'm very influential. I have several contacts that could be of very great use to you. In fact, I'm very closely acquainted to a member of the royal family who escaped the purge and who could certainly ply you with gold and treasures and whatever you like. A ship's passage somewhere far away. You could enjoy your money."
I smack him in the face to shut him up.
Is it like a punch or a slap?
No, it's like a backhand. It's like, shut your mouth.
So yeah, you snap snaps to one side, and Archie looks up at him and he says, "Right. Well, it's about all we need to hear from you." And he looks at you, Lucia, and he does one of these. Like, turn him around for me. Let's have a look at him.
I give him a little twirl by like holding
like,
his head.
Sobbing. And he says,
it almost looks like some kind of horrific dance.
Yeah,
like
right, because you're like twirling him.
Yeah.
And he's like Archie's making notes. And the vibe here is like returning a rental car. Right? Like he just walks around him and he like gives him a look.
Pokes at a bruise.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's probably a moment where he sees an injury and he points, like Archie points at it and he's like, "You have this when you got him?" And so he walks around and he stops and he says, he's like, well, it looks like him. And he looks at his notes. He's got a wanted poster, whatever. He looks at it. Is this a picture of you? He holds it up and Beetleborough like sniffles and he's like, I don't understand. And Archie's like, it's a simple question. You're not blind. You do understand me speaking to you, don't you? And he nods and sniffs up a big long string of bloody snot. And he says, is the man in the picture you? Is that your gob? And he nods like, yes, it's me. And he's like, right then. And he stamps the paperwork, reaches into the desk, puts a bag of coins on the table. And he says to whoever's Lucia, he says, if you could just take him downstairs and hand him off, I suppose we're done here. And he pushes the bag of gold towards you, Vander.
Yeah, it's like it just disappears very quickly.
Like it's there, and the next time the shot is there, it's just gone.
It's just gone. And Vander is just already on to like, well, and so this next job.
And he says, it's a big one.
I will excuse the noble from the room and take him downstairs before they start talking about the next job.
Yeah, so you start to go. Okay. So before that, so he says to you, Vander, as Lucia's leaving, he says, I've got one. I've been holding on to it a bit. I thought it was bullshit at first, but it might not be. Give me a couple of days to square off a few more contracts. I've got to make a decision. But come and see me in a day or two and we'll talk.
Yeah, and Vander like looks back at Bolvidier and Dawn for like she's totally ignoring Lucia in all of this, but will actually consider the two of you peers and ask and like care about what you think. But was just like, oh yeah, well Lucia's gonna take him downstairs and that's fine. She doesn't need to be here. We're grown-ups.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's like, cool, yeah, we're gonna do this job. Yeah.
And-
Okay.
So you'll have to see what it is first, but he's basically
Yeah.
like, come back. So in his own kind of like protecting your ego way, what Archie is saying is like, I have to make a decision about who to give this job to. Right?
Yeah,
like
but
I'll consider you. It's probably gonna be you, but I have to make sure. Come back after I've done my homework. Lucia, you walk out and you start heading downstairs. You feel resistance on the rope behind you.
What the fuck?
You stop and you turn around. So he's holding the rope with both hands and has kind of like pulled on it to try to stop you. And when you look at him, he realizes like, okay, I've got the length of the rope before you punch me in the face.
Yeah.
And he says to you, he's like, please, you have to listen to me. Don't. And like, are you stomping towards him or do you stop?
I stop and say, if what you have to say is more worthless bullshit, I will break your teeth.
And he shakes his head. And he says, I know that you are you're an intelligent woman and that you have no reason to believe me. I am a man about to face the grim specter of his own demise, the hands of his murderous foes. But you need to understand something. I have powerful friends, and if you would be willing to help me, I know that I've seen you in action. You are a bold woman, a brave woman, and good in a fight, and there will be more fighting to come, I promise you. And if you want to be on the right side of that fighting, all this madness is just temporary. Order will be restored. I'm giving you a chance to be a part of that order. Please just listen to sanity.
Do you have money that I didn't find when I patted you down that you can give me right now? Because I was just paid for you.
I understand.
You have more. I'm taking you downstairs.
I understand that you have access to money, but it appears to me like maybe did they give any of that gold to you? Lucia, was it? Is that gold in your pocket now?
I like squint at him when he says my name. Like, don't you fucking.
Yeah. So he nods. He's like, wait, do they give you that money?
It's our money.
Split evenly, I presume.
Not that it matters to you.
But don't you think that you are working harder than the others? You had to drag me all the way here, and you had to risk your life for that money, and for what? That bag couldn't have had more than a couple of dozen pieces of gold in it, and revolutionary gold, no less, which, as I understand it, is thinner and smaller than pre. Anyway, I'm just saying I think that you deserve better, ma'am. And that I can help you get that.
You weren't so helpful back when things went your way.
Well,
now you're getting what you deserve. And I start down the stairs.
He starts saying, like, we haven't had a chance to speak privately. And then you like yank on him, and it's clear you've decided not to listen to him. Okay, so yeah, he gets dragged behind you. And I think instead of like shouting and screaming and kicking and throwing a fuss, he just goes quiet, and he doesn't seem scared anymore. He's just like, okay.
I don't like that as much.
Yeah, and he just kind of like just goes blank and like lets you lead him along, and you head downstairs. Okay. So Vander, Dawn, and Mr. Belvedere, do you celebrate with this new money that you've got, or like what happens after you get paid? What is because you've done these jobs before. What happens after you get paid? Walk me through the process.
So Vander splits the money fairly and evenly.
Yep.
She doesn't fuck around with any of that stuff.
Yep.
Trying to like short people or whatever.
Sure.
She pays hers and Lucia's rent out of the remaining like half of the money that she has, and then splits that remaining money in half to give to Lucia. And Vander does not celebrate. Vander like goes back to her room.
Okay.
Are there any gambling tables in this joint?
No.
Fuck.
No, I don't
it's
think so.
Terribly boring here.
Terribly.
I have a feeling.
The thing is, everybody that spends time here wants time off from their like horrible, dangerous lives.
Right.
So there are you know personally tons of places you could go if you want to play cards or dice.
I definitely every time we get paid, I set aside like a certain amount to like go to the tables with.
So here's how that works. So if you just got 20 gold, everybody gets 5. But Vander and Lucia lose 3.75 of the 5 they just got. So Lucia, you get a gold crown.
Okay.
Right. And then a quarter of a gold, which is I don't know how many silver.
5 silver, because it's silver? 20 silver.
5 silver, yeah.
Okay. So you get 1 gold and 5 silver. Vander, you get that as well. And then Dawn and Mr. Belvedere, you get 5 gold crowns.
Yeah, rent fucking sucks.
Yes. Yeah.
I really hope there's some kind of fighting ring in this.
So Vander splits the money. Lucia takes the prisoner downstairs, and somebody down there puts him in a cell. And then you all meet up again in the main room. Are you gonna hang out here and get a drink, or Mr. Belvedere? What are you and Dawn doing?
Well, I was gonna say we still have a cart of corpses. And some
there is literally a cart outside with 2 dead bodies on it, and then a bunch of other miscellaneous junk that is underneath the bodies.
We've got to like do all the fencing and things like that. So there's more money to be gotten.
Right, exactly.
So I think
good.
I was gonna say with that, Mr. Belvedere like takes another beer, immediately downs it, and then marks the board, pays, and then wipes it himself.
Okay.
And so that would be 14 brass pennies
for the beer. Yeah.
For the beer. How many beer are in a silver? How many? Sorry. Yeah, too drunk, guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say too many, Mr. Belvedere.
He's 5'5".
How many beers are there in a fresh corpse?
1 silver is 12 brass pennies.
Yeah.
1 silver. Okay, cool. So I'll do this math. I'll get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when Dawn gets her share, like she knowing that we still have to do this rest of the job, it's just like an internal like she's already planning what she's going to do when she goes back to the mansion to unwind. First, she's going to stop at the apothecaries and she's going to get a nice herbal bath or like whatever she can get, a candle, and she's going to like she's looking forward to after the fencing to get to spend time alone and decompress essentially from all of this.
I think that one thing that Lucia does do before we go out to sell the things, like there's probably a travel pack that we have from being on the road for a while that we have to drop off at the room. And when Lucia and Vander are like relatively alone, I would tell Vander what the Lord Beetleborough said about like I don't know. He said something to me about knowing people in the old guard that could give us lots of money. So I don't know if like information is something that Arch, the keeper, trades with. But maybe he's not lying. And I shrug. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you had time, Mr. Belvedere, like we made a rumors roll just sort of off the top of your head about what you know about this guy. But now that you're home, you have access to all the other little whisper gossips. So if you spent some time and went and talked to your contacts and had some conversations with people, you might be able to find out the truth of that claim if you wanted.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah, and I was specifically informing Vander of that if she didn't know of it before.
Yes. Yeah, he was claiming that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mr. Belvedere, you know that's like a common, we talked a little bit about this, a common myth, right? That there's maybe like an Anastasia type figure out there somewhere, but
sure.
Yeah. But you don't know if this guy's connected in the way that he's claiming to be, but it'd be worth looking up.
I'll like, okay, Victor tweet. I'll keep the name out, and then as I'm walking around, sort of like ask about it. And I don't know, we'll make a roll eventually to see if
exactly. When you have a chance to go and do that, it'll happen around the same time that Dawn is getting their various massages and what have you.
Oils.
Ointments.
Gotcha.
Being
Fish
anointed.
oil is really in right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. All right. So given that Vander doesn't make a habit of, I guess, Vander, do you go to the room and just don't show up for the like debriefing? Like when Dawn and Belvedere and Lucia are in the tap room, are you already upstairs and gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And this is normal. The three of them wouldn't be like, where's Vander?
No. Yeah. She always takes some time to herself.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So then do you want to go and try to sell these corpses? Yeah. Okay. Is that the next step? Mr. Belvedere, you're the itinerary keeper.
Sure. Yeah. I asked the group, does anyone want to see if a vendor wants to join us on the journey, or should we just go?
Good question.
Would we know, like, typically there is sometimes loot from nobles like this that we would fence afterward.
Right.
Has Vander gone along with those kind of sales previously, or is this something where you need your time, we just like take care of it and like give you your cut?
Yeah, I think Vander just like threw a fit this time and has kind of opted out, so y'all can go ahead because she was like, hey, no, you take the pistols, you sell them, whatever. And
right, okay. And I'll just be like, she seemed to want some time to herself. I'll make sure she gets her cut. And I glare at Mr. Belvedere.
Cool beans. Let's get going.
Corpses are not getting any fresher.
Yeah. Also, I have, what's it called? I did the math. I have, it's written out here. 4 gold crowns left, 19 shillings, and 10 brass pennies.
I hate you.
That's all right. We'll go sell those guns. All right. So you're headed for the doctors, right?
Yeah.
That's the first place. Okay. So let's see. I mean, I don't think he lost his license, but the license was given to him by the previous regime, and there's no licensing for doctors now. So I think Dr. Faff still runs a like you can definitely still go to where he lives, and he will still definitely cut off or prevent from being cut off whatever you need cut off or not cut off. Right? He's still a doctor surgeon. That's something like he's a barber surgeon. You can still go to his house and do that. Nobody comes and bothers him anymore about whether he is malpracticing or not. So the things are great in this interim period for old Monty Faff. So he still lives in his pre-revolutionary house, right? He was lower upper class before. Like he wasn't a noble, but he knew specific stuff and he worked with nobles, and so got to make a decent amount of money. And so he lives in what used to be a decent part of town, but is now a combination of like squatters and like burnt out husks. And so you head to this sort of middle neighborhood, and you find his home. And aside from I guess it's like a red and white striped pole. This pole, and when I say white, I mean like yellow, like grayish yellow. But there's this pole sticking up beside his front door. And and you drag your wagon down there, but you notice standing in the street, you notice two young humans. They are both blonde. One has sort of a brush cut, like short top, very short sides. It's blonde. The woman has long blonde, like curly hair. They are wearing pristine, like white robes, and they are holding pamphlets.
Oh.
And they're standing between you and your destination.
Are they smiling?
Oh, you better believe they are. They have the most beautiful, shining smiles you have ever seen. And they have just finished a conversation with somebody who someone comes out of the doctor's office, and they're holding their stomach, and they look up and they see these guys, and immediately they walk over to him. The two in white walk over and start talking to him, and he's just like, no, please, I can't not right now, and runs off in some kind of physical gastrointestinal distress. And then they like take up their position in the middle of the street, kind of like talking to people as they walk by, trying to hand out pamphlets. And you see them between you and the doctor's office. What are you gonna do?
I feel like instinctively, when Lucia sees people with pamphlets, she attempts to push through just by saying, "I can't read," and then like just like goes through.
So you're just gonna try to just all right.
Yeah.
So as you walk up, the two of them, they turn their smile up to 11, and the young man, as Lucia, as you approach, he says, he's like, "Happy day, my sister. Isn't it lovely? Look, the sky is blue, the sun is shining, and we're both so lucky to be alive. And more than that, I'm so lucky to have met you. It's so lovely." And he like is walking towards you while he's talking. You just elbow him or shoulder him out of the way, or?
Didn't you hear me? I can't read.
Oh, there is no reason for you to feel ashamed about that. Don't you worry. All of our literature is provided, and he hands it to you. Do you take it?
No.
He opens it and he holds it in your face. And inside this pamphlet are crudely painted, like crudely drawn figures doing all kinds of happy things. There's like a big shiny sun, and the sun has a smiley face, and there's a family, and they're all having a picnic, and they're all smiling, and there's green grass and a blue sky. And then on the other side, there's a circle of people all wearing white, and they're all holding hands, and they're singing. And in the center, there's a big fire, and everyone looks like they're having a really nice time. And someone has a guitar, and he's definitely playing it. And so he holds this up to you, and he says, "See, you don't even need to know how to read. And if you want to learn, you can come with us to the compound, and we'll teach you."
I'm sorry. Are these all things that are supposed to make me happy?
And the woman says, Oh no, silly. It's not about being happy. That's much too difficult. It's about smiles. And they both just like,
Oh dear.
Mr. Belvedere pops up and just is like smiles back and is like, "Oh no, we have no trouble smiling over here. It's all smiles on our
all smiles over
all
here.
smiles over here. We're just on our way to go see our good friend. What a smiling occasion. And goodbye."
And so the man, he says, "What a great attitude, Uncle." And he goes to like hug you, like just to put his arms around you and hug you. Do you stop him?
I think Mr. Belvedere is so tiny that he just kind of like slips out behind him and like pats him on the back. It's like, "Oh, thank you," and like just like tries to like move like even past.
Yeah, so you just try to slip away. Okay.
Yeah. I'll make a stealth roll if I.
Yeah,
need
I think
to.
if you want to try to avoid these two, everybody will have to have their own escape vector,
Yeah.
except Dawn.
Yes.
So Dawn, when they look at you, the man, his face is just a blank smile. But when the woman looks at you, her eye like twitches a little, and you see her smile like kind of like they're not interested in talking to you. They just like they're focused on Lucia and Mr. Belvedere.
Oh, so they're straight up like trying not to engage me.
Yes. Well, they just don't want to. You don't know why, but basically they're ignoring you. But Lucia and Mr. Belvedere, you're gonna just try to like be like, "Excuse me, pardon me, excuse me," and like slip away from them and go inside
while smiling, like, "I'm good, thank
we're
you.
good. I
Yeah.
got smiles, thanks,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I can smile. Yep." And then Lucia, how are you gonna try to get away?
I would like to get away by insulting them. And basically what she's going to do is she's going to like look at the thing that he has open in front of him. She's like, "See, because really what most brings a smile to my face is either punching someone till their teeth falls out or fucking. And neither one of these are on your pamphlet. So
one of the panels, while you're saying that, we're seeing the pamphlet. One of the panels on the pamphlet is very confusing. It shows two people holding hands, and then it shows two people, but one's lying on top of the other on a bed, fully clothed, and they're both sideways smiling at the camera. And then the third one, it's two people, and they're holding a tiny person who's also smiling, but is drawn like a tiny adult, just smiling like, and all three of them are smiling together.
Oh, that's supposed to be the fucking part.
Yeah, right. So,
wow.
So you say that. So you're gonna try to intimidate them while Mr. Belvedere slips away. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Belvedere,
I'm gonna punch their teeth out.
Both of you make a skill roll with the appropriate skill, and give yourselves what's the plus? Let me see. This is an easy task. So give yourselves set it as easy, and then
I think it's also when I succeed an intimidate test, I inflict mental peril. So let's not forget that I inflict mental peril.
Good.
I would like them to remember that I inflict mental peril. So I succeed.
Okay.
So I think, what is it?
Also succeed.
Nice. Okay. So Lucia, your aggressive attitude, you watch as this guy like listens to you spout invectives. Mr. Belvedere, you just like, excuse me, I'm an old man. Please don't look at me.
Pardon me. No, thank you.
Yeah, so
I like just like kind of make my way around. Yeah.
And then so Lucia confronts him while you slip away. And the last thing that we hear from them as you go away is the man starts to sob in like fear, right? He's like, "I thought she was going to murder me." And right next to him, you hear the woman calming him down. And she's like, there, cousin Plumcake. We'll try again next time. And Plumcake is just like, she was so mean. And she just keeps being like, "Try to smile through it, Plumcake. Just smile through it."
And Mr. Belvedere's passed by already now too.
You can just walk by them. It's like you're not there.
Well, yeah, I noticed this, and I'm very like Dawn's very suspicious of this, and like the side eye she's kind of got from the lady. So if both Lucy and Mr. Belvedere have passed, and they're just sobbing there, Dawn turns and looks at them.
Yeah. So the woman is in control. She's just big smile. Her friend Plumcake, cousin Plumcake, is a mess, and he's just like he's not actively experiencing emotion anymore,
Right.
but he's feeling that thing where like, you know, when something like really intense happens and in the moment you just get through it. And then
Right.
after you either just like start laughing or like fall apart. That's what's happened to him. Right.
Right.
Is
And
he just faced
so-
death and now it's gone. And he's just like, fuck.
Was this threatening violence upon an innocent?
Yes. Yes, of course it was.
Nice. Good.
Cool.
Right before Dawn starts to follow her friends,
Yeah.
she looks back at the woman and makes direct eye contact with her and goes, "You know, you cannot always control what's outside, but you can always control what goes on inside." And then she turns around and follows her friends.
Yeah, and she shouts after you as you go inside. She's like, "Shut up, heretic! You don't understand. Ogre smiles don't count."
Hey, they
What's
take
this
corruption.
Zweihander-
for being
Yeah.
racist.
Ogre
What's this
smiles
Zweihander
don't
way
count.
of flipping off
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
bird?
Yeah.
You're like, you don't understand this. It's an ogre gesture, but it's very rude.
Yes, it's very rude.
Mhm.
So
I opened the door and like as everybody comes inside, I was like, seriously? Fuck those guys. Those guys are terrible. Really just like we could just get around them as much as we can. I would love that.
So you come inside. Immediately the smell of formaldehyde just like fills your nostrils. The stench of decay only barely covered by the thinnest layer of perfume, right? Like just this awful cloying stink when you come in. And from upstairs, and I imagine that this house is quite small at the base, but has like 7 stories and a complicated network of dumbwaiters. Like it's a tiny base and then like a bunch of buildings stocked on top of each other. And when you come in, there's a little like tinkle as the door hits a bell. And you hear from somewhere upstairs, you hear like, "Just a second, don't be down in a minute."
Oh, Monty, take your time.
Yeah. So there's just like, there's a pause. And you're like, "Mr. Belvedere, is that you?"
Oh, of course, Monty. Who else called you Monty?
Hang on, don't go anywhere.
Oh, where would I go? There's
so-
corpses would reach.
Several stories upstairs, you hear like thump, 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 and like some noise and like rattling around. And then the sound of a man relatively slowly descending 8 flights of rickety stairs. So lots of creaking and thumping until finally he rounds the staircase on the top floor. So you're in this like little foyer, this cramped foyer, and he comes around and he walks in and he's wearing like a surgeon's outfit. So he's wearing like dark leather, like a frock with a butcher's apron over top. The apron's covered in blood.
Mhm.
He, I think, has bare hands because he would have just washed them after a surgery. So his hands, he's got nothing on his hands. His hands are clean. He has the effect of he's kind of like a bird. He's very tall and kind of like lanky, and he has this sort of like slightly pointed nose and kind of like leans over. He's got a bit of like a Monty Burns physicality to him. But yeah, we see him and he like wraps his fingers over the banister, this beautiful like hardwood banister, polished. He holds on, he leans over and he sees the group of you, and he sees Mr. Belvedere particularly, and he's like, "It's been forever. How are you?" And he starts coming down the stairs, and he's got a cane that he uses, and he leans on it as he comes downstairs.
Oh, better now. So the reason I feel like Dr. Faff and like Mr. Belvedere go way back to when they were actually children, I think. Because it was an aristocratic upbringing, the way I envisioned it was Mr. Belvedere was one of the nobles. And then when the first round of uprising happened, his family like first got culled, but the rest were able to stop it. But in order to like make it work, they lost their like titleship.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So you have that in common with Dr. Faff,
Right.
where you both touched the glory of nobility and then had to fall back.
Exactly. And while all the other nobles like disregarded us, we still like treated each other well, no matter what sort of like societal lines would round. So there's like a little bit of, I guess, So what? He messes with corpses. It's fine.
Yeah, right,
I mean, there's
like, we
science
just-
there. Really.
Yeah, we gotta get along. So yeah, you're like, oh, I've been busy, and he's like, how long has it been? 6 months? 7? I've been very busy. Go figure. And he gestures kind of around, and he says, he looks at Lucia, and he looks at Mr. Belvedere, and he looks all the way up at Dawn. And Dawn, this is a tall house. The first floor is double tall. He's up on the stairs. He's actually looking down at you as he comes down the stairs.
Ooh, I can stretch.
Yeah, and he says, he comes over to you, Dawn,
Mm-hmm.
and I think he looks up at you. And have you met this guy before?
Probably if Mr. Belvedere knows him, just because I've been around with Mr. Belvedere for a while. So, and I also think with just the cult background, with like trying to, I think Dawn's at that point in her cult where she's kind of believing what the humans have been thinking. Like maybe there is truly something inside us. So I wonder if she has some ties with him just because he's a doctor.
It might be a conversation you've thought about having with him before, but maybe
Yes.
haven't brought up. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
sure,
So he's
yeah.
seen you
Like-
before, and he knows your
Yes.
name. Okay.
Yeah.
So he comes over to you, and he
Mhm.
takes one of your hands in his.
Oh,
And he looks up at you earnestly, and he says, it's so good to see you again, my lovely. And he bows at the waist, and he like kisses the air over the back of your hand,
oh my.
and he says to Mr. Belvedere, he says, truly you have improved my day dramatically. Like your name, you are a beam of sunshine comes through the window in the morning of my day. If I had not already been awake for several hours, I would thought that you, like the sound of birds, came to awaken me. What a beautiful angel you are.
What
And
I
he-
tell you about him, honestly, great with the living. Don't let him near you. Really, really
And
great.
he's still holding your hand
Oh boy.
in both of his.
Oh, Dr. Faff. So good to see you again. And I'm like trying to like move my hand out. Has he got gloved hands or anything?
No, his
else?
hands
Touching
are
bears?
bare,
Oh,
but you can,
no,
you can
no, no.
awkwardly slide.
Yes,
your- like,
slide it
yeah.
out. So good to see you again.
And he says, you know, on my errands, I have been seeing more and more of you around. These tall and
Oh.
beautiful people wandering from place to place, teaching everyone about your beautiful spirituality.
Mm.
I have to tell you, my love, I have been looking very hard for this God inside.
The
but-
dweller?
So far,
The
none
dweller.
of these men have had God inside them. Yes, the liver and the lungs and the heart, but so far, no God. I will keep looking, though.
Yes, please do.
Does no one in this world understand what a metaphor is? My
No,
My
no,
God.
it's literal.
Yes, it's exactly. That is part of the everyone is ignorant thing. It requires a degree of exposure to things like culture, which many of these people just have not got any of. So
Truly shameful shit.
yeah, right. And so he says, he turns back and he looks at Lucia and kind of like examines her and then says to Mr. Belvedere, so you have not brought me any of your injured friends. I suppose this is good news. Does anyone need the surgery? You have to have anything cut off? Strange growths you found on yourself, possibly. What can I help you with, Mr. Belvedere?
Well, in fact, what can we help you with? I think we've got some new fun toys for you to play around with. And I like pull open and reveal the cart with the two corpses.
You open the
on it.
front door and
Yeah.
and okay, yeah, and he says, "Ooh, exciting!" Brings him around the back, and he looks at you, Lucia, like, "Go on, go get the cart."
I like having watched him lavish praises on my ogre friend, completely ignore me and then tell me to go get the cart. I like look for just a second longer and then turn around and go get the cart.
Yeah. He's a little weird around ogres. I should have
It's-
told you about that. I did not know it gotten this bad. I'm sorry.
It's a little extreme, yes.
So he turns back to you, right? He's gonna lead Dawn and Mr. Belvedere. He's gonna lead you through the house to the back,
Mhm.
And so Don, he turns and he puts out his arm like, this way, please.
Oh dear. Okay.
Yeah, take
Can I
his arm.
take out gloves, my own, like for flavor reasons? I have gloves. I put my
Yeah.
gloves on and I'll just slide my.
Have you, as a total aside, before I
Mhm.
forget, have you read any of the Raj trilogy books, like Ancillary Justice or anything?
Mm-mm.
There is a major part of the culture of the people in that series is about wearing gloves and like when they
Oh.
wear them and what they touch with or without them. It's really
Mhm.
interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, you can definitely have like ceremonial gloves.
Yeah,
that you
I
can,
have
like,
I have gloves on
just-
because like I knowing he's a doctor and he's touched like potentially unclean things. Dawn does not want to have
Mhm.
skin contact with this person.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, puts
Do
on
you-
gloves and then awkwardly, yes, we'll take his arm.
Yeah, you take his arm and he smiles, beams, in fact, up at you.
Good.
And he, as you walk through first his kitchen, or first his dining room, then his kitchen, then out into the back, he's telling you, he's like, you know, I don't get to leave the city very often, but I have some friends who like to go out and explore and go looking for things, and they sometimes bring me interesting things. I have an artifact a friend of mine brought me last week. I think that it is ogreish. Perhaps you will take a look at it for me and let me know what you think.
Yes, I'd be happy to look at this artifact.
Good. Then you will stay after our business is complete. I will make tea.
Is it Yoplay?
Gogurt?
No, that's the name. The name of the ogre battle commander is the Gogre.
Yeah.
But yeah. So he says, so you'll stay and we'll have tea and I'll show you my artifact.
Well, I do have other business. Jeez, I have other business to attend to after we're done here, but maybe at a later date.
And he's gonna try to flip this rejection into a better date later. He says, oh, I have never seen the place where your people stay. Maybe you could take me to one of these, what do you call them, wellness centers. I would love to see one. Oh, I just imagine all the ogres walking around so tall and beautiful. I would love it. Yes, let's do that instead. I can bring the artifact with me and they can look at it too.
That sounds wonderful.
Brilliant. Good. And so at this point, you've traversed the entire length of his house, and you get to the back door, which he opens. And Lucia, you have, I assume, walked around the outside, and
Yes.
the cousins they've moved on. They're like half a block down now.
Good.
And
How many chaos did I get for harassing them?
whatever is it between 1 and
It's
3?
1 and 3. Yeah.
Okay, just 1.
Ah,
Um.
I'm trying.
And so you see Lucia in the back, and the doctor opens the door and he looks and he says, "Ooh, corpses!" And he comes over and he starts looking at them and he's like, "Ooh, excellent class distribution. You've got poor corpses and rich corpses."
I made them myself.
And he looks over at you, Lucia, and he gives you a look like, "I wasn't talking to you. Shut up."
Wow.
He doesn't say anything, but he looks at you like, "Shut your damn mouth." And
Ah!
yeah,
so
and
mad.
he looks back at the corpse and he talks sort of sideways so that Dawn can hear him be smart, right? Where he's like, "Oh, this one was killed by a bullet. You can tell because of the small wound on the front and the big wound on the back." And right, and he's like, "This man had liver problems. You see this spot here and this spot here. He was going to die anyway." And so he just kind of like is trying to impress you with his knowledge. And then he turns to Mr. Belvedere and he says, "Now you mentioned business. I assume you're looking for me to buy these corpses."
Yes, that would be ideal, but honestly, yes, just the money would be what we're looking for. Let's be real.
He nods and he says, "My old friend, this is a time of enlightenment, of freedom. We no longer have to make these deals in strange back alleys. I mean, this is a strange back alley, but you know what I mean. We no
Yes, this is
longer
just where
have
you're
to evade the police when we want to do these things."
Mhm.
What? For example, hello, anyone? I'm buying some corpses from my friend, Mr. Belvedere. Hello there. Does anyone care?
I'm just saying it's still a little weird. I just it's still weird.
There is a
Just
man
saying.
lying on the street in the alley who looks up and he looks at you, and the doctor says to you, Mr. Belvedere, he's like, don't worry about it. He is addicted to drugs. He will either be dead or not remember this. He probably thinks I'm the devil. And he kind of gives him a little horns like, eh. And the guy leaning against the wall is like, don't talk to me. And he says, oh, don't worry, friend. Perhaps you will be joining me on my table soon. And he turns back to you, Mr. Belvedere, and he says, so what, you have 1, 2, it was 3, right? 3 corpses? Because you killed, or was it 2? No, it was 2. Because there were 3 peasants, 2 of them ran away.
2 of them ran away.
Yeah. So he says, you got
Well,
1
there-
and 2.
Yeah.
They're both in pretty good shape. I think since we are friends, I will give you 1 gold for this one and half as much for that one.
Okay.
Why half as much?
And he turns again, and every time he looks at you, it's like he's noticing that you didn't exist before now. Like he turns and he's just like, it's like he gives you the same look as if he just keeps noticing the same bad smell over and over. Like he's just like, he looks at you and he says, well, because of many obvious reasons, this body is in better shape. This body is not. This body is common. I could find a dead commoner anywhere. Look right there. And he points at the guy who's like, I'm alive still. And he's like, any minute now, this body is worth the same as that one. And he shrugs. He says, listen, if you want to go down the road to see Heinrich the butcher, fine. They're your corpses. You can do what you want with them. But my good friend, Mr. Belvedere here, and I were making a deal. So when we are done making a deal, if you have any other stupid questions to ask, you may ask them then. And he
Hey.
turns back. He turns back to you, Mr. Belvedere, and he says,
To his back, I say, if you want another noble corpse, I can make one right now.
grumble, grumble. And he turns to you, Mr. Belvedere, and he says, I'm sorry about that. I do not mean to have this outburst. I have the money inside if you would like to come in.
Whatever gets us through this fastest, good friend. Come.
And he turns back to Lucia and he says, if you could just dump the corpses down the chute. And he gestures, and there is a wooden set of doors that are closed over like a cellar. No, go on, it's unlocked.
Sure.
And he turns back to Dawn and Mr. Belvedere and he's like, come inside, come inside. Like hustles you in.
Scoot on into his office. Clearly a death trap.
Yeah,
Character
I
mode
mean,
for Dawn.
if operating in the city is like operating an H.H. Holmes style murder hotel, it would be this guy. But
It'd be this.
also, okay. So Lucia, do you
Yeah.
do you just throw the corpses down the corpse chute?
I throw them with violence. I try, like, since he's already agreed on the price and I doubt he's going to go into the basement, I'm not even thinking of that. I'm just trying to make them less valuable to him because I'm mad at him being mean to me. So I'm just
You're
like,
just being petty is what's happening. Okay.
yes,
All right.
Love it.
yeah.
Good. Yeah. So you yank open things, you throw them down, and then we hang on this shot. And this is a great ending shot, right? Because
Yeah.
like you're just hucking bodies down this shaft, and then close the thing and go inside. And I think the door closes. You go inside to the doctor's house, and that is where we'll end our episode. The episode totally got away from me. I looked at my watch right after the break, and I was like, "Yeah, we got lots of time." And then I looked, I'm like, "Oh, the episode was supposed to end 10 minutes ago."
Oh, whoops.
We started late. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. All right.
It's okay.
Also, does corpse desecration count as chaos rank worthy or like corruption point worthy?
I don't think so. Not
I
at
don't
this
know.
point.
Just try.
I mean, grave robbery does.
Yes.
Was
That's because they've been sanctified and that's a blasphemy. That's like a minor blasphemy, right?
Because you're digging them up.
Yeah.
Was me making a mockery of those peep smile cultists' religious practices? Was that worth anything? I
Not
mean,
in
mocking
addition, that whole scene net you 1 corruption. So.
Ugh.
You're just not important, Blue Jay. I'm sorry.
I need to do some sadistic torture.
I mean,
or
you-
just like yell
situation.
at the gods.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you wanted to accumulate corruption, you could have said when we got to town, you're like, I have some errands to run, and I leave, and I go like find some random person and I beat them to death, and then I use the corpse to beat somebody else to death. Like, you can definitely do that. It's just you got to warm up to it first. We're learning the characters. So speaking of which, we'll do a quick corruption check. I think it's only a 1 in this case. Like, you got a 1 in 10 chance. Did anybody get more than 2?
Oh, 2.
No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. Here we go. The gods are merciful today. So everybody mark an order. Clear your corruption.
I mean, how do you even work on order except for by not doing corruption?
You survive. Yeah. The moral, and this is why I think that, and I'm not going to go off on a big tangent about it now, but I would love an opportunity to do that about this game. The mechanisms of a game indicate to you things that are true about the world. So looking at what the characters can do and how they're affected by that. So becoming imbued with fate, all you have to do is don't die and don't do anything bad. Goodness naturally accumulates. It's not even goodness. Order naturally accumulates. Chaos is easier to have happen to you, but doing nothing, it's that whole nobody move and nobody gets hurt. If everybody just stops doing everything, we'll all be okay. Yeah.
Sure, that'll happen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's sort of the idea, is that if you want to get anything done, you sort of have to flirt with corruption. Or bad people who embrace corruption will just walk all over you. Cool. Okay. So everybody mark your continued advancement. And we can talk about spending that if you want to do that between sessions.
Yeah. So what do we get per session?
It's 100 every session.
Okay.
So you'll end with 1,100, I think.
Well, no, because we got some.
We'll end with 1,200.
You started. Yeah, that's right. You started with 900, but we don't.
No, we started with 1,000.
Oh, that's right. You get 100 bonus.
On
that is
Racketeer.
correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So your total should be 1,200, and your current will be either 1 or 200.
1 or 2. Yeah, exactly. That is right. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So that's our episode. We got to get introduced to Philos. We met some NPCs. I think probably then we'll see. We might spend another episode next time in Philos. You'll either we'll figure it out at the beginning if you want to just get your job and get out of there, or if we want to hang out. But I think the job will be either the beginning or the end of an episode. We'll see how it shakes out. So yeah, I'll leave that up to you guys if y'all want to explore town a little more and have some more scenes. That's cool. Or we can just fast track it and say you buy your stuff, we'll do a scene, and then we move on. So we'll do that. We'll decide pacing at the beginning of next episode.
Okay.
But between now and then, everybody should go and check out all the cool stuff everybody does. Blue Jay, why don't you start with a little shout out?
Okay. I'm Blue Jay. I am currently doing 3 role-playing shows a week. So including this one, you can find me right before this at 1 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/DND. And on Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/Table Story, I am GMing a Stars Without Number show called The Bystanders. We're about halfway through on episode 5 next time. So if you want to catch up on that, last time for the first time as a game master, I made some of my players cry. So
Nice.
It was great. I loved it. Otherwise, everything I'm doing is on Twitter.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Blue Jay. Masood, why don't you go next?
Sure. Hey, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Marudboy, MAHRUDBOI. Yeah, that's the best way to keep up with what I got going on with either comedy or just like with tabletop stuff. You can catch me here every Monday night with these lovely people playing this game that you're watching right now, obviously. But you can also see me on Wednesdays, part of Roll20's Jay Speller Must Die, which is getting real fun and wild. It's a wacky ride, guys. Real fun. And sometimes we even do our jobs.
Sometimes, yes. Yeah, it's been pretty lore heavy the last couple episodes.
No, truly,
less bullshit than usual, which is pretty different for that show. Yeah, digging it. Cool. Yeah, we've got an episode of that on Wednesday, so you can come check that out. Let's continue going around in the circle over in this corner. Amber, hi, Mistress of Goblins.
Hello, hi. Yes, I'm Amber, and you can find me on pretty much any social media as Rocket Orca, though I'm mostly on Twitter. I do drawings of goblins. Graphic design is my passion, and so is making silly commander decks, and which I have completely have not talked about the last 2 episodes. I have a Magic the Gathering talk show that I
What?
co-host called Red Mage Blue Mage, which is on geekspective.com, which is the podcast network I co-own. You can go to geekspective.com for all my podcast stuff. So Shapeshift is my podcast where I GM, and it comes out on every other Thursday, this Thursday being one. And then I'm also on another show on the Don't Split the Podcast channel doing playing Godbound. And then geekspective.com, rocketorca.com. That's where you can find all my stuff. Woo.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And last but not least, playing Vander, the unusually level-headed member of the party. It's Andrew. Take it away.
It's unusual for me to.
It
be the
really is.
level-headed
That's what
one,
I'm
but
saying. Like,
trying to branch out, trying to be very like pointed and deliberate.
I like it.
And still hateful and vengeful.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm Andrew. You can find me on Twitter at Commuting Crow. I have a game that is okay. Well, you just missed your chance to get into the beta for Girl by Moonlight, but it is coming out at some point with Evil Hat Publishing. And if you're interested in that, you can go to girlbymoonlight.com. I'm also going to be running an actual play of it sometime later this month, so keep an eye out for that. And I have a new project I'm starting where I'm going to design a character type for Slay the Spire. So that'll be like a complete set of cards.
Ooh.
oh, that's so fun.
So I'm doing a little game design project. I'm going to stream that. So you can check that out as well. Just keep an eye on my Twitter for all that stuff.
Cool.
That's really cool. I like that. You see that in design a lot where people will be like, this is my version of the Nike website. Or like, if I had to redesign this thing, I would do that. I'd never thought about like, if I had to design like an expansion for this game I love, this is what that would look like. Oh, that's so cool. I'm going to watch that.
I'm thinking of doing like a triple character pack where it's different act bosses as characters you can play. So I'm starting with the champ.
That's super fun.
Because the champ is great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That's really cool. I love all that kind of stuff. That's really good. Cross media design stuff and all that. Yeah, definitely cool. Awesome. Well, I guess I'll do one of these. Hi, hello. My name is Adam. This is my channel. Thank you for coming and watching, and thank you to my friends for joining me for this Zweihander adventure. If you have an idea of how much a corpse costs, tell me. I need to know these things. These are important economical. No, that's not true. Continue commenting. Like, hit us up on Twitter if you've got fan art, if you've got like rules adjustments or whatever. You can send them to me on Twitter at Skinny Ghost, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube video. They're super helpful. It's been great so far. Really appreciate everybody turning in and checking it out. If you missed either of the other two episodes, they are live right now on my YouTube channel. Basically, the schedule we've got for this is live episodes Monday, YouTube video Wednesday, and then or YouTube video Thursday, and then Wednesday and Saturday for the GM prep. So if you want to see any of those secrets, haven't checked it out yet, do that. But that's it. I think that's it for me anyway. We will be back next week with more Zweihander, coming back for episode number 3. And that's it. Thanks for coming, everybody. See you next time.